Hi folks, happy Friday. Welcome to the weekend once more. I trust that you've had an excellent science fiction reading week. Do let me know if there's anything that you particularly recommend. We all love a good book recommendation. Before we get into the usual content, I wanted to announce the inaugural survey of our collective favourite science fiction books. You can access this survey via a link that I will put in the description for this video and in a pinned comment, and probably in the next few that I do as well. Filling the form out is straightforward, but choosing your favourite 10 might not be. This exercise will live and die by how many responses that I get. It currently is around 50, and I think I really need a couple of hundred at least to make it worthwhile. My intention is that at some point in the not too distant future, I will collate those responses and report back in a video our collective top 25 or top 50 or something like that. So as I say, that will be open for a few weeks more, so please have a think about it and take the 2 or 3 minutes to fill it out. That would be awesome. And the observant amongst you might have noticed some new graphics, which are courtesy of Chris Badenoch down in Australia. He's a graphic designer and a viewer of this channel, and he offered to produce something for me that I might use on my videos. And who knows, there might even be a t-shirt that I can buy, and that you could buy too if you're really desperate. All right, back to the usual weekly update. What have I been reading this week? This week I have read Neuromancer by, of course, William Golding, and this is the cyberpunk urtext, the plimsoll line against which all other cyberpunk novels are judged. And because I listened to it on audiobook, it was like being jacked in. It was pumped directly into my brain, all very cyberpunk indeed. And Neuromancer, I'm sure I don't need to tell you too much about it. It has extremely memorable characters. Those are the things that I'll walk away with, really. There's Molly Millions, who is augmented. She has, as well as being hot as all hell from the sound of her, she has like mirror shades, and they're not just sunglasses. They are attached to her eye sockets, and they are cybernetically enhanced and can do all sorts of tricksy things. And to top that, then she then has Edward Scissorhands style retractable razor blades in her fingertips. And her opposite number is Case, who is a washed up hacker who was caught at some point in the past stealing from his employers and has been doctored, neutered if you like, to prevent him accessing the cyber world. Molly and Case are recruited to break into an orbital holdfast, and it's not always clear by who or by what, and other actors want to hinder them or prevent them, and it's quite a ride. We go from city to sprawl and from seedy bar to orbital Rastafarians and all points in between. I found Neuromancer to be lushly written. It's gritty world building and fully realised in all of its neon glory. And Golding really effectively blurs the lines between meat space occupied by the likes of us and cyberspace. And when you remember that this was written just as the birth of the PC was happening, Microsoft barely existed. IBM had just launched the personal computer. None of us had those in our houses. We all had crappy ZX Spectrums or Commodore 64s, that type of thing. And the internet barely existed other than in military or academic networks. Certainly most of us didn't have internet in our house. So the idea of all being interconnected was pretty revolutionary. Neuromancer wasn't the first cyberpunk novel, but I think it's probably the most iconic at this point in time. I enjoyed it, really, really enjoyed it. Next, I picked up in physical book form Eternal Light by Paul McAuley, and I must confess that I struggled greatly with this one. Much to my surprise, actually, because the Paul McAuleys that I've read so far have been perfectly readable. And in fact, I got about halfway through it, and yesterday decided that I would park it for a little while, put it down. There's a couple of contributing factors to that. One is that this is actually not a singleton novel. It is a loosely connected sequel to 400 Billion Stars, which was Macaulay's first book. I've been led to believe you could read it standalone, but what I found was that there were frequent references to past events and even to the previous book, 400 Billion Stars, although in a bleak fashion. And I found those references to the past really distracting. I couldn't help wondering if I'd missed something important. Would I be better off reading the previous book before reading this one? Or had I just missed something in this book? And I was also listening to Neuromancer in parallel. In some respects, they were a little bit too close for comfort, too similar. There were orbitals, there was a future society, there were long-lived people, and I actually found them merging a little bit in my head, and I kept forgetting which was which, and that was more distracting for Eternal Light than it was for Neuromancer for some reason. So I think what I want to do is to find a copy of first and then read the prequel or the first book, 400 Billion Stars, and then I'll pick this one up again. So I don't think I'm counting this as a DNF. I do intend to read it. So let's call it more of a deferral than a DNF. Next, I picked up Bloom by Wil McCarthy, and in contrast to Eternal Light, there were no distractions affecting the pace at which I read this, and I burned through it fast. I haven't actually finished it yet, but I'm approximately 2/3 of the way through, and I think I will finish it this weekend. More on this next week. And that's actually it for books that I've managed to read this week. I didn't have a lot of time last weekend because I was away. If you remember, there was no weekly update last week because I was hurling myself around the countryside in the Lake District of England, and very fun it was too. Channel stuff next then. Subs are at 3,495, which is up 30 on last week. And if you're one of those 30, or if you've just stumbled upon my channel for the first time today, a huge welcome to you. I'm John, and I focus on collecting, reading, and waffling on about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from Eric, who said that he had decided to read Revelation Space by Alistair Reynolds after watching my most recent space opera video, which focused on the years between 2000 and 2010. And somewhat to his surprise, he found it to be an excellent read and really grabbed his attention. Probably not in his top-notch ever books, but unusually for a post-1985 book, it did grab his attention and hold it. He also said that the only other books that had done that for him that are fairly recent was Nathan Lovell's Solar Clipper books. And I have read those and I love them. And so it was really nice to be reminded that they exist. I read them on Knocked Off audiobooks many, many years ago, and I really need to find some physical copies. In fact, they are actually lurking on my Amazon wish list. Just saying. Thank you to Eric for taking the time to leave a comment, and to all of you that do the same. As I always say, I really enjoy reading and responding to the comments, and I try to get to every single one. Let's take a quick look at what was on the channel this week. On Sunday, there was October's book haul, which was quite an eclectic mix of list-based hunting, where I've been trying to track down books that I'm missing from that Broderick and DeFilippo 101 best novels covering 1985 to 2010. And I added a number of those to my shelves. And then there were some charity shop finds and some new books and some gifts, which were very gratefully received. It's a pretty good haul, I think. And if you haven't watched it already, then please do. On Tuesday, there was an interview with Ian MacDonald, who's the author of the Lunar Trilogy, River of Gods, Desolation Road, Hopeland more recently, and a bunch of other things besides. He and I had a really nice chat, and that video is definitely worth a watch if you're interested in his books. Then on Thursday, there was a cheeky bonus video, which was simply me unboxing a new arrival from The Broken Binding, and that's the first of my freshly minted science fiction subscription, and I explain how that process works and then unwrap a very carefully packaged book, and very beautiful it is too. On the book buying front, despite having only recently done quite a substantial book haul, I'm finding I already have a significant pile. And really the culprit there is those flipping list books. They're dangerous. I have been focused still pretty much on the Broderick and DeFilippo list, which is the more recent list, and I have added yet more in a frenzy. There are currently 25 books on my to be hauled pile, many of which were finds from that 101 best novels list, with one or two being new or charity shop finds. And there's more to come. On Sunday, I'm going to see a book dealer, and that could become quite expensive. We shall see. What have I watched this week? Not a lot. I've watched some of the usual suspects, but from a new channel, or new to me anyway, is a guy called Raf Blue Taxed, who is focused, amongst other things, on a reading and a deep analysis of all of the aforementioned Ian MacDonald's work. So I watched him wax lyrical about Desolation Road, which was Ian MacDonald's debut novel from, I don't know, a long time ago. Coming up on the channel on Sunday, there will be my TBR selection process for and the resulting books for November, and I'm already really excited about reading those books, but I have to make my way through the remainder of October's first. On Tuesday, there will be a look at John Wyndham's post-war novels, that video that I've been promising for some time. That is done and in the can, and it will be published on Tuesday. And in that video, I look at John Wyndham's better-known post-war novels, 7 of them in total, and I give brief remarks on each one and then rank them mercilessly and declare my favourite Ev's John Wyndham book. So you can watch along and see which you really like the sound of, or you can disagree with me on the ranking of those books. A little bit longer range, there will at some point be a wrap up for October's reading. Hopefully that will be out next weekend, so a week on Sunday. There will be that much promised library tour. I'm going to try to record that this weekend if I have the time. And I am in the middle of working on a video looking at murder mysteries, mainly in science fiction settings. What will I be reading this week? On audiobook, now that I've finished Neuromancer, I will be reading The Crystal World by J.G. Ballard. It's a relatively thin book. It's only 4 or 5 hours, and I should polish that off this weekend. And this weekend, I should also finish Bloom by Wil McCarthy, if not this evening, in fact. Like I said, that's going down very well. And then I just have 2 books left on my TBR pile for October, and 6 days in which to finish them. Once I finish The Crystal World, I'm going to spend one of my Audible credits on Hopeland, and I will probably not finish it quite next week, but I'll make a good dent in it, and then that can be my audiobook listen for a week or 2 afterwards. And so that will slide into November's wrap up. So once I finish Bloom in physical book, then the last book on my October TBR will be The Boy on the Bridge by M.R. Carey, who wrote The Girl with All the Gifts. And I'm expecting this to be a reasonably easy read as well. As always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, goodbye for now.